Hey guys, this is your girl Natural. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy you're here. So, I want to talk to you about these things. I'm going to watch it with you. We can watch it together. Dr. Ramani actually warned, I'm looking for my headphones. Dr. Ramani, she warned us a while ago. I want to watch this with you guys and react to it. Now, this was back, I think, in 2016, so you're going to notice some of the talking points, you know, they don't really apply to today directly, but at the same time, he's doing the same crap. We're dealing with a narcissist. We might be dealing with a narcissist who has, like, way more power than the average narcissist that we talk about on this channel. The narcissist who is your local boss or your weird cousin or your mother or whatever. It might not be that narcissist, you know, in terms of like income. He might have way more money and way more influence, but he's a narcissist. Like, there's no other way to put that. And he's not fit for office. We saw that back in 2016, but we were scared to say anything, right? Some people, I guess like Dr. Ramani, she shows that she wasn't scared. She was a G from the beginning and was like, this is not a good idea. But this is just to solidify for you that here we are 6 years later, 7 years later, or whatever it is, and we're dealing with the same stuff. So let's look at this together. I didn't put this in any particular order, and I think, I don't know, it's like a podcast. It's from a account called Explaining Trump. I don't know. And I don't know exactly in what order it actually went, you know, when it went live, but it doesn't really matter. So let's take a look at this together.
So one other thing I want to get to is because tomorrow on Monday, we'll start to hear from James Comey. We'll start to hear about the Russian investigations. And do you think, and what we're hearing is that there was not collusion. You know, there seems to be no evidence, maybe circumstantial evidence, but no evidence of about collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign. Does that make sense to you? And do you think Putin has a tape on? No, you don't.
I think, you know, this idea that Putin has some sort of, you know, smoking gun. I think that in some ways Putin and Trump are perfect little playmates. Like that, you know, it's often the case like the 5-year-old bullies find each other in kindergarten because they find a perfect mirror in each other. Yeah. Narcissists in some ways love and admire other narcissists because they're playing the same game. That's what a mirror is, right? We fall in love with the person who mirrors us back. That's sometimes when we're in the broken times of our life, we choose broken people. But they really do. They're playing the same game. They speak the same language. And so I just think that it was, I mean, I think Putin's a lot more clever than Trump. I think he's a far more fine-grained malignant narcissist, and he might be more in the far more in the psychopathic realm. And I think in that way, there's almost some of that grudging admiration by Trump for somebody who plays a rougher game than he does.
So you think that they, at a distance, kind of eyed each other? Yeah. This started with, I mean, it makes sense to me. It started with Putin disliking Hillary and wanting to be a thorn in her side in this election, and then realizing, hey, I could work with this Trump guy, or is it I could control this Trump guy?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I think that in some ways he might have very well eyed some of Trump's vulnerability with a more seasoned eye. And, you know, because again, Putin's had to play a rougher game of politics in Russia, as you could imagine, than you have to play in the States, I think. Yeah. And so I just think he's better at that game. And I think he saw that here was somebody who sort of admired some of Putin's darker traits in a way, and he was going to run with it. It's, you know, almost it reminds me of, like, again, narcissistic mean bullies in high school, and the meaner bully bringing in sort of a level 2 bully into his, you know, fiercer gang. Like he was able to sort of groom him up into that. And so, and I think that Putin doesn't try to play a diplomatic game. And I don't necessarily know that Trump, like a lot of narcissists, necessarily like diplomatic games because, again, Trump won on a straight talking campaign. No fancy talk for me. I'm going to go right in there and tell people what they want to hear. And that's sort of what Putin was kind of trying to encourage himself. And so Trump liked that. There was none of these namby-pamby having tea and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, this is about how to survive the next 4 years and how we can work with Trump's personality issues to make America great. And so what I'm wondering from you are three things. Let's look at number one, the Russia thing, since we were just on there. How do we or Congress people or just citizens of the United States get Trump to not get played
Too
by
late.
Putin?
Well, first of all, we don't. I mean, I think
Okay.
one of the hardest things when dealing with
That's
a
the wrong
narcissist.
answer.
That's, yeah, I know. We don't. One of the
for answers.
hardest things with a narcissist is really, it's one of the times you sort of learn the zen of a relationship, which is we really can't control them. And I think this is where his aides, honestly, his cabinet, other people on the Hill, they're going to start feeling like they're losing their minds, because at some level, even a stubborn president at some point will come around and listen, and he wants to do things his ways. And like I said, you're probably going to see a chronic reshuffling of the deck in the Oval Office until he has a steady base of yes men, you know.
Okay.
So I actually think that until there are severe consequences, and I mean severe consequences, he's not going to change his behavior. It's a bit like putting a restraining order on a narcissistic boyfriend. It's a very similar thing. There's going to have to be something heavy to make him change course, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
he's
what
not going to.
about his children? Who could talk to him? Who would be the best person to convince him? Would it be Ivanka? Would it be Melania? Would it
Definitely
be
not his wife. Definitely not his wife.
Would
No.
it be Kellyanne Conway?
The problem is that I think that he has surrounded himself with so many people who are sharing in his delusion that, the people he trusts most are the people who are sort of in this shared delusional system.
Yeah.
That's the challenge here. And I think that that's the only way you could often stay in the inner sphere of one of these systems. And in fact, the first time somebody doubts the narcissist is usually when they need to start looking for the exits. Because so I don't know that there is going to be someone in his inner circle, because Tara, that's predicated on the fact that they think that this is true, that they believe that this lack of evidence is true.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So like you're assuming that we think that's true.
Well, no, I'm saying lack of evidence or not. I mean, whether there's collusion or not,
Right.
it definitely. I think that a lot of us feel that Putin's like,
hypnotizing
Trump,
him. Yeah.
and I want to know how we can, like, is there something we could do? Is there something the media could do? Is there something that someone could say that would, for instance, I guess what I'm thinking is if we were to kind of paint him in the light of being Putin's puppet, right? When that was said at the debate, he about lost his mind. I'm not the puppet. You're the puppet. He said to Hillary
Well,
Clinton.
I mean, but see, like I said, then you'd have to have people who really can unite. You need a substantial chunk of folks up on the Hill that keep painting that picture of Trump being Putin's marionette, and that Putin's, pulling the strings and Trump is dancing along. So
Okay.
then I think Trump, in his usual way of trying to correct and act out, will then try to do something that will shadow Putin and make him not look that way. That would actually be not a bad strategy. The problem is that so many people on the Hill don't want to recognize Trump's narcissism, and they're trying to run politics as usual. They really need to dig into a new bag of tricks. And I agree with you. You could, in a way, as long as you could make it so that Trump believes that public opinion is viewing him as weak, which is
Yeah.
something narcissists hate, being
Okay.
viewed as weak, then that could be definitely a way to potentially turn that tide.
Okay, that's something we can work with.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Sorry. Did you hear that? Okay, this is from. Let me just tell you when. This is from 2017. I said 2016 earlier. This is from 2017. This is what Dr. Ramani was saying back then. Listen to what she said. The people around him are in the shared delusion, okay? They will not be the ones to say, wake up. They're in this shared delusion with him. He is surrounded by yes men, okay? What are we seeing right now? We're not seeing the party of Lincoln. We're seeing the party of Trump. It's not the Republican Party. It's just the party of Trump. It's just who is willing to degrade themselves for him. Who is willing to audition for VP? Who is willing to follow into absolute delirium for him. It's no longer about actual politics or anything here. You see when the young lady asked Dr. Ramani, you know, like, what can we do? And she's like, nothing. They're like, there's nothing that you can do. And I don't know if it was in this clip or another one, but at some point she basically says, nothing is going to stop him but being stopped by the law or something like that. I don't know if those were her exact words, but that's where we are right now. If people aren't, I haven't met my mouth, by the way, I'm sorry. If people haven't woken up to the fact yet that we are in a bare knuckle fight to maintain the sanctity of the United States of America, just because one guy is having trouble releasing power and he's a narcissist on like some mega scale, I don't know what to say. You know, I feel like for a long time people were very hesitant to talk about it. And I think it's because so many people, now that I have, you know, they say 50-50 is hindsight. Now that we have that hindsight, you know, we think, why didn't people speak out about this more? It's because there were so many people playing into the shared delusion that it was like, to question it would have made the same people look crazy. But now, little by little, it's added up. Democrats don't have to act like this is a normal, you know, guy, a normal president anymore. It's not. Okay, let's keep going.
Let's talk about what's going on right now. Okay, so what's going on right now is the wiretapping, right? And so the wiretapping is actually very similar to the situation where he insists that people were bussed in to vote against him. And so even though there is no evidence, and the Republicans are saying there's no evidence, and there's literally no one saying there's evidence, he continues to double down and triple down and so on this claim.
Right.
So how does that benefit him? How does his mind work that he doesn't pivot from this?
First of all, don't always think of it as a benefit. I think in some ways it's a habit, and there's a difference, okay? He is not accustomed to having to admit when he's wrong. And because he's a businessman, he makes his money off of posturing, okay? Obviously, that's very different than governing, okay? And what we do know is that people don't do well when they're given evidence that defies what they believe to be right. It's called cognitive dissonance. And people have trouble integrating information that's different from what they originally believed. In fact, if you give people information that's different than what they believe, they'll often hold on to their position more strongly. And research consistently shows that. But in the case of the narcissist, they tend never to A, be able to apologize, and B, be able to take responsibility. So those two traits, which are classic traits of narcissism, are what he is demonstrating now. For him to admit that he might be wrong is weakness. And like I said, weakness has no place in business. It definitely has a place in government, but I don't think he's adjusted to the fact that he's not running a company, he's running a country. That's a big adjustment for someone who's only been sort of a one-trick pony his entire career, other than reality TV star. I got to give him that. So that's why he is not he's not coming back from that, because I do think about how a salesman works. You tell someone something enough times, they're going to believe it and they're going to go for it, right? You keep repeating the mantra, hoping to make the sale. He's hoping to make a sale.
That right there. That right there. Now, I know the camera movements are all kind of weird and crazy. Like, I think half of that is, like, it's probably the lady's friggin' husband, like, playing an amateur camera operator on daytime, on TV, you know, whatever. But I also kind of feel like it was the time. Like, is it just me, but do you guys remember a time back to, like, 2016, 2017, where podcasts were really becoming very popular, and there was just all these weird camera movements? I know back then they used to be, like, really into that ad hoc kind of, you know, sort of punked-esque towards, it was supposed to evoke the feeling of, like, organic, in the moment, you know, sporadic type of thing, candid, you know, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But anyway, I think the thing to note from this that is just the most interesting to me is that all the same attributes that Dr. Ramani talks about all the time, which if you don't know about Dr. Ramani, you're missing out. She is the narcissist guru. And I mean, the same stuff that she talks about that crazy narcissistic baby daddy that you got, or the crazy narcissistic boss you had, or your crazy narcissistic dad, or your crazy narcissistic mom. Just the everyday narcissist. Same stuff applies to Donald Trump. They don't like to lose. They are delusional. People are sharing in a delusion with them. Everything is a competition to them. They only like power. They only want to hear good things. They only want to have yes men around them. They don't like to lose. They will win at all costs. Like, they will topple over others for their own expense. Like, it's the same thing. Same thing. Even now, there is a tax-paid post-presidential office that Donald Trump has never even put his name on the label of the office. And no one has ever seen inside this thing. Apparently, there's just a bunch of boxes in them with God knows what kind of documents in there. This has never, ever been about helping the American people. It's never been about his whole life dream being to be the president so that he could help lead a nation in a way that is moral and robust and one with scruples. I know that's my favorite word, but one that is reflective of every single person in the country. Service. Narcissists don't know service. They don't know doing things, unconditionally, out of love, out of compassion for others. Everything is transactional. You got this tax-paid office that he never even put his nameplate on because he never intended to be a post-president, He has always just wanted to be a dictator. It's like the kid. It's like the kid playing with the fire truck who, in their mind, they've made themselves the king, the emperor, God, the know-all, the be-all, everything. He never saw America as a country made up with real people. He saw it as something to control. He is a narcissist. Narcissists are not fit to run an entire country. Okay, let's keep going.
America married a psychopathic narcissist, so now what?
I mean, listen, it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, a psychopath really in some ways gets... they feel absolutely no remorse when they do something terrible. And I'm sure that, he's done some things that probably weren't entirely cool. And maybe he did kind of feel bad afterwards. We don't know that. So before we completely slap that label on him, I think his behavior is incredibly consistent with narcissism. Mm-hmm. Psychopathy is a pretty dark monster. And so that's why we're using it more as an adjective, because I think that in many ways, some of the stuff he's doing, he'll say something bad, mm-hmm. He'll make an accusation, and then he won't apologize, even when he's found to be wrong. It leaves us wondering, does he feel remorse or does he not? Just because he doesn't apologize doesn't mean he doesn't feel remorse. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's not apologizing because he doesn't want to seem weak, but we don't know if he feels bad or not.
All right. Is he a psychopath? This was filmed in 2017. We can clearly say in 2023, he is a psychopath. Don't let him anywhere near the nuclear codes ever again. Put him in jail. Enact the 14th Amendment so he can never hold public office again. Crush down domestic terrorism that's lingering after he is out of power. Any lingers of that, any stenches of that, crush those odors immediately. He is a psychopath. Consensus is out. It's done. We know it. Okay, let's move on and try and put this stain behind us.
So how can we take that his healthcare declaration of healthcare for all, it will be so affordable.
Right.
And then on the other hand, that's not the case. Right. But you also said that part of the narcissism point of view and malignant narcissism point of view is that the campaign promises he made, he will absolutely with his dying breath make happen. But he seems less engaged with this than, let's say, building a wall.
Yes, because first of all, building a wall is a grandiose gesture. It's a big, tall wall, right? Okay. So, remember the grandiosity piece of narcissism. A wall is a lot sexier than healthcare. Narcissists never keep their promises. Ask anyone who's ever been married to one. I promise you this, this, and this. And the person's like, but you promised me this. And they'll say, I know I didn't. And they'll gaslight them. So let me tell you that all the dynamics of narcissism are going to play here. And he's going to say, well, I didn't really promise that. I promised this. Or no, you don't know. It's all fine. And he'll come up with all kinds of, lies to sort of twist where these new deductibles and what these mean and all that. So no, he's not going to keep these promises. He will keep the ones, like I said, that were grandiose and that were much more associated with a far more aggressive kind of a space. Like we're going to keep out certain immigrant groups. We're going to keep certain groups away, that kind of thing. Those sorts of differences, that's what's going to be at play.
All right.
You're going to see that. So I think in terms of keeping campaign promises, I think he's going to be strategic. He's going to keep the sexier campaign promises, the ones that he thinks will sort of create another 4 years. That will definitely happen. But I think that the healthcare one is so Byzantine. Here's what I think may very well happen is that we're going to keep pretty much a variation on a theme of ACA that keeps about 80 to 85% of what they worked so hard to create, realizing that there's not much they can do with it. And so I just think that they know they'll alienate and hurt too many people that they made promises to. What they're so clever at, though, is they're going to repackage it and make it look like it's their plan.
Y'all, this right here just proves A, that Dr. Ramani is a beast, B, that narcissists are so dang unpredictable because this was in 2017, and how true is everything that she said. Narcissists basically are not experts at anything. They never actually sat down in their life to achieve anything. Like, okay, maybe Elon Musk is an exception, but most narcissists, especially ones like Donald Trump, they didn't actually sit down to craft something. So he's in here with a bunch of inexperienced people who don't know what they're doing, okay? They're like, Obamacare, get this crap up out of here. Which, the only reason they think that Obamacare is crap is because it was spearheaded by a black president. That's it. But also, ironically, a black president who had the education and experience to know what he was doing. Obamacare, okay? And then what they give you is just like a slightly rearranged version of Obamacare. The wall, strongman politics, okay? Not even something that, he does care about it. It's clear that he cared about it, but it's not something that the average American wants. Even kind of like further extreme than average necessarily wants. It's only what Donald Trump and the most crazy extremists want. It's strongman politics. It's just something that says, I am so big and bad that I'm going to go on the most crazy claims. You also hear what Dr. Ramani said about them doubling down on things. They don't apologize. Back to the thing about him being a psychopath, okay? He doesn't apologize. He doesn't show remorse after the fact. Look at E. Jean Carroll. We are far past 2017, but look at the stuff that he's doing. He doesn't show remorse. We can pretty much, he's a psychopath. He's unhinged, utterly unhinged. Look at the Midas Touch. Every day, the Midas Touch shows more and more crazy unhinged stuff that he does on Truth Social, and they really break it down for you. A lot of us, like me, I would not see this crazy unhinged stuff unless I looked at coverage that's actually showing this crazy unhinged stuff. But there are a lot of people out there that have played into his delusion for years and years and years who are looking at his delusion all day, every day. He is posting craziness all day, every day. It's like, it's so true. It's so true. This is the type of behavior that would blow America up. Have America looking like that movie 2012. Okay, let's keep going. Last one.
The big word today on all the Sunday morning shows that I watched is the credibility issue, and that our credibility is now encroaching. It's our allies.
Right.
So, what could they do to get him to back down on this, or to do maybe like what he did with the Obama birtherism, right? Eventually he came and he declared it no longer an issue.
Right, but no longer an issue. He never admitted he was wrong.
Yeah.
And I think the key is, remember, for Trump, the sole motivator, as it is for all narcissists, is what do I need to do to make myself look good? They sort of Photoshop their souls, right? They just need to make everything look better.
Yeah.
And so what they need to do is help make the argument to him him, that if we sort of turn the story this way, it's going to make you look a lot better. It's going to, and more importantly, it's going to make you look more powerful. The best example I can give to our listeners is this idea of, think about when a narcissist cheats in a relationship. They deny. I mean, they deny so much that I honestly think they believe their denial that they never did this thing.
Okay.
And the other person in the relationship, hearing so many consistent denials, starts to doubt themselves. Well, maybe I was wrong, and maybe that picture is sort of, kind of, not really him. I mean, even when there's big evidence given to the other person, they really, if somebody denies enough, you start wondering, gosh, they're so consistent about this. And again, that's very much one of the big tools in the narcissist toolbox. They can so clearly and consistently deny. They don't tend to show cracks. And so that also is part of his picture, and I think that's why he's holding his position. But what all of his advisors always need to do is find a way to pitch revisionism to him.
Okay, guys, let's talk about that. Did you hear that? Let's wrap this up. We're way past that. Like I said, I think this, what they're talking about now, is back when the wall was the big thing. We see how that has turned out. Our allies are finally starting to be just as scared as Americans were, say, probably back in 2020. I think Americans were scared enough to make sure that man did not get in the White House. And his crazy insurrectionists were willing to fight to overthrow the U.S. democracy, to break into the Capitol, to try and put up a noose to hang Mike Pence. I mean, like, because he didn't get elected president. So, like, Americans were there in 2019, 2020. Arguably, some smarter Americans like Dr. Ramani was there back in 2016, 2017. Now, in 2023, G7 and G20 is like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? We used to say, you know what? Those stupid Americans, they're so freaking arrogant. Look at them over there. They elected Donald Trump president. This is pretty funny. Let's watch them freaking suffer, That's what some of the countries that always thought we were some arrogant, douchebags, like they were just like, yeah, let's watch them suffer. They deserve it. But now they're like, oh, crap. A lot of our stake is in the U.S. A lot of our economy comes from the U.S. Yeah, let's get it together. So now, our allies want us to get it together. Well, where were y'all at back in 2016? Why was nobody saying anything in 2016? Why were Americans not saying anything in 2016? Partly because a lot of people were playing into the delusion. And why? It's because of what Dr. Ramani says. Somebody will, if they deny over and over again. If somebody tells you the sky is gray, or yellow, that's a better example. Somebody tells you the sky is yellow over and over again, you might actually start to think, maybe the sky really is yellow. The sky is not yellow, it's blue. So hopefully we have learned our lesson. Donald Trump needs to be stopped from ever holding public office ever again, and domestic terrorism needs to be squashed every single time it stems up, because that is going to be the reverberating mirror effect that happens. This is narcissism on a huge scale, and it's trickling down. I mean, Americans, I know you noticed it. I know you have. I know that you've noticed in the past decade that America has just become more mean, more divided, more evil. Yeah, it trickled down from the big cheese. It's time to wrap it up. Let's get back to democracy. Let's get back to bipartisanship, okay? I want to know what y'all think. Let me know in the comments. And if you're new to this channel, please do me a favor. Hit the like, subscribe button. Hit that bell so you know whenever I post a video. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye.